Episode 8 of Chief of War really puts every character through the fire. Kamehameha is stuck at this painful crossroads. He wants peace, but it's his people who keep paying the price for it. Kaiana, on the other hand, is crushed by loss. First Wai'ine, then Nahi, and you can feel that grief boiling over into pure vengeance. Ka'ahumanu is trying to guide her husband without pushing him away, while Kupuohi steps in with the kind of clarity both men desperately need. And then there's Keoua, chopping down sacred trees, spilling blood, and calling on his gods like he's ready to burn Hawai'i to the ground. Every choice, every clash in this episode feels like it's pushing us straight into the war that's about to decide everything. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. So, let's break it down. We'll go through what happened, why certain characters acted the way they did, what it means for the prophecy, and how the ending reshapes the entire war for Hawaii.
And one ship, and they are coming back. And what welcome will they get?
Kamehameha's Crisis of Vision. The episode opens with devastation. The shores of Kohala are littered with bodies, slaughtered natives whose blood is swallowed up by the Pacific. It's tragic imagery that sets the tone. This is the cost of Kamehameha's pacifism. Kaiala had warned him about the Europeans, warned him about Metcalfe, but Kamehameha chose restraint. He wanted to lead by example, to build a Hawaii where people didn't kill people. Noble idea, sure, but the reality, his people died anyway, and for a king who carries the prophecy on his shoulders, that contradiction gnaws at him. He's caught between two visions: stick to the ideal of peace no matter the cost, or embrace the ugly truth that force might be the only way to protect his people. And that's why he's in two minds throughout this episode. He wants peace, but peace has already been shattered. And honestly, you can feel his hesitation everywhere. Kaiana lashes out at him in court, grief-stricken over Wai'ine's death. Moku steps in, threatening Kaiana, blaming him for everything. According to Moku, the English only retaliated because Kaiana struck first. Convenient logic that shifts the blame off Kamehameha's inaction. But this also plants a dangerous seed. Kamehameha begins distancing himself, not just from Kaiana, but from Ka'ahumanu too, because she speaks on Kaiana's side. For a man who needs wise counsel, it's a terrible move. And yet, it shows just how lost he is in his own grief. Ka'ahumanu's strength in silence. Now, Ka'ahumanu, what a fascinating role she plays in this episode. She's rejected by her husband, doubted by her father, cornered in a male-dominated court, but she doesn't collapse under it. Instead, she embodies the exact kind of resilience Hawaii needs. She knows better than to argue too hard with Kamehameha in this moment. If she pushes, she risks him closing himself off completely. So when he asks if he made a mistake not siding with Kaiana, she stays silent. Not because she has no answer, but because she knows the real answer has to come from within him. That's political wisdom right there. But her silence doesn't mean she's passive. Behind the scenes, she's still shaping the direction of Hawaii, bridging divides, keeping the vision of unity alive, and ultimately reminding both men of what's at stake. Without her, the prophecy probably would have crumbled in this episode.
We're heading back to Kauai.
We cannot leave these people.
Kaiana's grief and anger. Meanwhile, Kaiana's story takes a tragic turn. Wai'ine's death devastates him, and Nahi's fate later in the episode completely unravels him. Kaiana has always been passionate, fiery, sometimes reckless, but grief hardens him into vengeance. At first, he just wants to leave. He's done with Kohala, ready to retreat to Kauai. But Nahi calls him out. Nahi has always followed Kaiana without question, but this time he refuses. Because abandoning people in need isn't the Kaiana he knows. That moment of brotherhood, of Nahi standing firm, is powerful. It shows us that Kaiana is not just wrestling with grief, but also with who he is supposed to be. Keoua and Kahekili, madness on the rise. While Kamehameha dithers and Kaiana mourns, Keoua is making bold, terrifying moves. He desecrates the sacred New Grove, chops down its trees, slaughters the overseer, and sacrifices him to his god. Keoua isn't just fighting a war, he's weaponizing fear, desecration, and cruelty. And the scariest part is, he's not alone. Kahekili is spiraling into madness, stabbing his own son Kupuohi in a fit of rage, destroying his altar, and feeding his lust for bones and blood. Kupuohi's attempt to rise as a stabilizing leader looks doomed from the start because Kahekili's insanity poisons everything around him. Between Keoua's brutality and Kahekili's chaos, Hawaii faces enemies who don't fight by any honorable code. That makes Kamehameha's indecision even more dangerous. Nahi's death and Heke's trauma. Let's pause here to talk about one of the most gut-wrenching sequences of the entire episode. Nahi's stand against Keoua. Nahi knows he can't win. He knows he's staring death in the face, but he fights anyway. It's a warrior's death, yes, but it's also a moment of sacrifice, a refusal to let Keoua trample over Hawai'i without resistance. And the brutality of how he dies, his head crushed by stone, makes it unforgettable. Heke, meanwhile, escapes, but not without scars of her own. The implication that Opunui forced himself on her is harrowing, and it underscores how war doesn't just kill bodies, it destroys spirits, desecrates dignity, and leaves survivors carrying unbearable trauma. Together, Nahi's death and Heke's suffering embody the true cost of Kamehameha's hesitation. Every delay, every refusal to act means more lives shattered.
Not win. I have fought with them.
Kupuohi's voice of reason. Amidst all this darkness, Kupuohi emerges as a voice of clarity. She's always been tied to Kaiana. Their bond's strong, even in moments of strain. But here, she steps forward not just as her wife, but as her own leader. She goes to Kamehameha's court, not to represent her husband, but to speak her truth. And what a truth it is. The war god alone cannot win this war. The red-mouthed weapons Kaiana brought, guns, cannons, European firepower, these are the blessings Ku has provided. If Kamehameha ignores them, he's not just ignoring Kaiana, he's ignoring the god he claims to follow. What convinces Kamehameha isn't just his logic, but her conviction. She speaks with the authority of someone who's seen the consequences of ignoring Kaiana before, and in that moment, Kamehameha begins to shift. Kamehameha and Kaiana unite, finally. The two men come together. It doesn't erase the grief, the mistrust, and the anger between them, but it creates a path forward. Kamehameha realizes that if the prophecy is to mean anything, he cannot win this war alone. Kaiana, for all his flaws, brings the weapons, the passion, and the fight Hawaii needs. And maybe, just maybe, the gods are really speaking through Kaiana's red-mouthed weapons. But here's the key takeaway. It's not just about gods and men. It's about the women who've held these men together when they were ready to break. Ka'ahumanu's wisdom, Kupuohi's courage. They're the reason Kamehameha and Kaiana don't destroy each other before the war even begins. They save the prophecy from the follies of pride and grief. The gods enter the battle. The ending gives us one more chilling image, the eruption of the grove, a sign that Keoua's sacrifice has been heard. His god favors him. That means the final battle isn't just mortal, it's divine. Gods against gods, men against men, with Hawai'i's future in the balance. But remember, the overseer warned Keoua that desecrating the grove would bring death upon him. So while he may think his god stands with him now, the gods of the grove might have their own plans for vengeance.
The gods speak for Keoua.
Episode 8 leaves us in a precarious place. Kamehameha has finally set aside hesitation, but he's still stubborn enough to believe he can fight the old-fashioned way without fully embracing Kaiana's weapons. Kaiana is burning with grief and vengeance, barely held together by Kupuohi and Ka'ahumanu's wisdom. And Keoua is riding high on blood sacrifice and divine favor. The prophecy is alive, but it's fragile. Hawaii could unite or burn. Episode 8 of Chief of War is the turning point of the season. It's where pacifism meets reality, where grief meets vengeance, and where men finally start listening to the women who've been guiding them all along. It's brutal, it's heartbreaking, and it's exactly the kind of setup that makes the finale feel like it's going to be nothing short of epic. The question is, will Kamehameha finally trust both the gods and the people around him enough to become the leader Hawaii needs? Or will his stubbornness undo everything? One thing's for sure, the war for Hawaii has officially begun, and the finale is going to be unforgettable. That wraps up Episode 8 of Chief of War. The prophecy, the grief, the gods, and the war are all colliding as we head into the finale. What do you think? Will Kamehameha finally rise to the vision he's been running from, or will Keoua's fury and Kahekili's madness tear Hawaii apart? Drop your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives.